Welcome. This is one of my paintings. Yes, it's for sale, but I haven't mounted it yet. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you today about I Ching, the Book of Changes, the benefits of pine pitch, and what to do when someone you love decides to go for the shot du jour, if you know what I mean. First of all, I'm also going to talk to you about, like I said, the I Ching. I did a coin toss on this very subject, and this is the hexagram I got. It's a hexagram 38. Sorry for its messiness. That's just how I roll sometimes. So hexagram 38 is Kui. K'(U)E'(I), opposition. And the reason why I'm talking about this subject matter, seemingly disparate, is because what we're actually dealing with as humans is that there will be some people who choose to change their body, and my own family members have. Some that I dearly love. I don't love all of my family members equally, in fact. So I'm sure you have had the same thing, and rather than responding with complete rejection of that person, and that includes people who would reject those who choose not to have anything put into their bodies that's foreign to them, that they do not want to have. There is information to be gleaned through the Book of Changes, through the I Ching. So, what we are experiencing is opposition. And I'm not going to go into the fear factor, today being 9/11, I'm not going into the fear factor of the mandates that have been passed down by the current administration in the Oval Office. Whatever the puppet happens to be, the powers behind the presidency of the USA are pulling this one. So they're really going for it now. They're really going for the biggest scare tactic they possibly can. And at the same time, looking at the big picture, yes, important, but then looking at the smaller picture, looking at what does this mean for you and I? How do we relate to the goings on in the world on a personal level with the people we love? So in that so doing, I tossed the coins. With that in mind, I tossed the coins, and I received total unmoving lines. And if you know what I'm talking about, because you know the I Ching, that will make sense to you. But otherwise, it came across as a very strong hexagram, hexagram 38, which is actually 3 + 8 is 11. So it's Li above. I wrote it wrong here, but let's take a look. It's Li above, and it is Tui below. Above is the clinging flame, and below, joyous lake. Now, fire and water are opposites, so right away we get that. So I'm reading from ichingonline.net. They get the credit for this. This hexagram is composed of the trigram, Li above, flame, which burns upward, and Tui below. Excuse me if I pronounce these wrong. I'll move on. Tui below, the lake, which seeps downward. See? Opposition. These two movements are in direct contrast. And it goes into greater detail for those that are interested, because these symbols also represent Li is the second daughter, and Tui is the youngest daughter. They live in the same house, but they are from different fathers, and hence their wills are not the same. they are divergently directed. So that's what all of us are experiencing. We're experiencing divergence within our own homes. Some of us, including married couples, someone like a husband may choose to become altered for his job, and the same may go for the female. Now, what the directive is in this, and how can we go forward with this? How does one deal if, for me, for instance, my partner is unwilling to become unemployed and is therefore going to hold out for as long as he can before he then has to? And how can I be of support to him because I love him? And how can I not treat him like he's a leper now? And the same goes the other direction for those individuals who want their partners to receive this. For those families who want everybody in the family to receive this, they have that same feeling. They would then think that that person who is choosing with their own free will not to alter their genetic material, they look at that person, my own family, my parents are still alive. They are 91 now and 86. Yeah. So they have called me on the telephone and they're very concerned and they want for me to receive it. But I only can resonate with my own self, and it doesn't resonate with me at all. And so I choose not to receive. So this advice is for those people too, who think a person who does not receive it is a threat to them. So the same way, people that, believe it or not, those who are vaccinated, those of us who have not, who are not going to ever, they look at us like we're cuckoo just as much as we may think you are as well. So that's the opposition. Two divergent wills, two divergent will centers. And so if you're in a loving relationship and the person chooses against your choice, whatever your choice may be, then how does one deal with this as a soul, as a present being in today's world? So I'm going to read word from word from the ichingonline.net. When people live in opposition and estrangement, they cannot carry out a great undertaking in common. Their points of view diverge too widely. In such circumstances, one should above all not proceed brusquely, for that would only increase the existing opposition. Instead, one should limit oneself to producing gradual effects in small matters. Here, success can still be expected because the situation is such that the opposition does not preclude all agreement. That's very important. I'm going to repeat that. Here, success, meaning harmony, whatever success looks like for you, which is usually harmony. Here, success can still be expected because the situation is such that the opposition does not preclude all agreement. And the small sentence for this hexagram is, "And small matters good fortune." So, again, hexagram 38, Kui, opposition. Above we have the flame, up we have the joyous lake below. Two daughters, so that's feminine, from different fathers, divergent wills. In general, opposition appears as an obstruction, but when it represents polarity within a comprehensive whole, it has also its useful and important functions. The oppositions of heaven and earth, spirit and nature, man and woman, when reconciled, bring about the creation and reproduction of life. In the world of visible things, the principle of opposites makes possible the differentiation by categories through which order is brought into the world. And so, what I'm reading from this for my own personal self is to accept the person. It's, again, it's going to be a personal thing for everybody, but to really look at this as people are going to be divergent. We are going to have oppositions. But within that opposition, there can be great growth. There can be a rebirth of something new. Rather than thinking that the world is going to spiral downwards because people aren't taking this on, or spiraling downwards because people are taking it on, you can start looking at it as instead a very important function. Because again, the function of opposition is the reproduction of life. So, fire and water, never mind, but even when in contact, retain their own natures. I'm going to start the reading the way he said this, or she. This amid all fellowship, the superior man retains his individuality. So, this is the I Ching. The Book of Changes is also the art of war. So this is a war that we're having in the world on this body, planetary animal mother. It's a living entity, in my opinion, and it's the mother goddess in all of her shapes and forms and faces. By the way, we're in a Shodashi shift for you planetary Tantra people, and it's day 2. So on day 5, you can command begin instruction, and you can redo the bonding ceremony by pricking your thumb and putting it into the earth and restating your vow. That's a little aside for you PT people. So again, above we have the fire, below we have the lake, opposition. However, the words are such in the Book of Changes. Thus, amid all fellowship, the superior man retains his individuality. Now, I'm not PC correct, so I'm not going to change that to woman, but a person who's got any sensibility and intelligence will realize that's what we're talking about here. The superior human animal retains their individuality. So the superior man retains his individuality. I'll go on. The two elements, fire and water, never mingle, but even when in contact, retain their own natures. So the cultured man is never led into baseness or vulgarity through intercourse or community of interest with persons of another sort. Regardless of all commingling, he will always preserve his individuality. You see? So what is this saying? That the self-cultivated person, the self-actualized person, can continue to be in the company of the other individuals that are not the way they believe or whatnot, and they still maintain their individuality. So the cultured man is never led into baseness or vulgarity through intercourse or community of interests with persons of another sort. This means that those who take it on are going to get along just fine with those of us who do not, and those of us who do not are going to be just fine with those that do. Which brings me to pine needles and pine needle tea and pine pitch and its benefits. And all I did was put into a search pine pitch health benefit. So pine needle tea is made a lot like you would make green tea. You want to boil the water and then pour it over the pine needles, which you must make sure they're not poisonous. So this isn't health advice. I'm not a doctor. And follow the recipe at your own risk, because I'm not a doctor. I am not a health practitioner. But I bring it up because if you actually look into it yourself, you can discover whether or not pine is good for you or not. All kinds of pine. There's pine resin. There's pine pitch is what I called it as a kid. And I did one little tiny search, and it's pine pitch health benefit because, and I'll tell you why, and this is where it gets interesting, is that on the property that I share with my partner, who may have to take this on, or may choose to do so, with full faith that he will be fine, with full absolute faith that it will not alter him negatively, whereas if I were to take it on, it would be my undoing, because it's so against me, it's so not me. This is yeah, it's kind of disturbing. I got upset, hence this video, because I realized that if it can happen to my own home, to my own being, to my own partner, that we can be opposed and still have our individuality, and small things make progress. And I'll go back to that I Ching later, because this is going to be a subject when he does and she doesn't, or when she does and he doesn't. This is, or when people who don't love me, or people who listen to this may not have the intelligence to actually have come to minute marker almost 17. But those of you who have hung in there, we'll see what I'm saying is that in those oppositions, we have the opportunity for new growth, new life, and not to look at this like it's like doomsday on any account for anybody. Now, I got into this pine pitch thing because I'm into planetary tantra, which means I follow the moon cycle, and there's a different flavor to life based on the goddess and the reflection she places to the mirror of the moon. So the woman in the moon, and it's a shiny metallic object that appears white because of the sun's light, but it's actually black. The moon is actually black. It's not the thing that we saw in 1969. Sorry. So see this right here? Now what this is a ivy leaf, and it has on it little dots of resin. And I have been meditating and wondering, how can I strengthen my health with all of these unknowns about? And the answer is Arbor Vitae, the tree of life. It really is. This is a pine tree. It's got 3 needles, so it's a red pine. And lo and behold, in a lightning storm, flirtatious lightning bolt wasn't just flirtatious, she was raging. And she slashed that thing. And so there's razor marks down 2 sides of this tree now. It hit it high up. And now there are drops of pine pitch falling onto the ivy. Falling onto the ivy. And they have health benefits. What are the benefits of health of pine resin? I'm going to read directly from my search on DuckDuckGo. I went ducking. I went duck-duck-going. Duck, 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 go! Remember that game when you were a kid? Duck, 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 goose. Anyway, you sat in a circle, and then the other person had to chase the other person, and it gave you an opportunity to touch everybody's head. And you always said goose to the person that you liked. I did, and I always made a boy chase me. And then he got to be duck. He got to be duck, duck. So what are the benefits of pine resin? Okay, this one says, indeed, the benefits are known to treat rheumatism and wounds that are rebellious to healing in the form of lotions, common colds, and pulmonary tract mucus lining. I'm just reading the results page. I'm not going to go onto each site. Medical uses for pine resin. This one from Leaf TV. Native Americans have used pine resin to treat rheumatism because of the anti-inflammatory properties. The resin acts to remove the joint inflammation caused by ... You have to click on to find out. This one, pine tree health benefits and therapeutic value. A mystical tree worshipped in many past civilizations, the pine tree represents immortality in the Far East due to its 9 health reasons to explore the benefits of pine needles. The sulfur in pine needles does wonderful things for your skin and hair. And then you learn how to make pine needle tea. Pine needle tea, what does it do? Look into it. Basically, pine is used for upper and lower respiratory tract swelling, inflammation, stuffy nose, hoarseness, common cold, cough, or bronchitis, fever, tendency towards ... Here's another one. Pine needle tea is made from brewing the needles of trees in the genus Pinus, P-I-N-U-S. Not penis, folks, Pinus. It has been used in traditional Chinese and Korean medicine for centuries to promote ... So you go ahead and look into this yourself. But because I'm going to go back to the hexagram, and this is from this is from somebody's motheringchange.com, and it's a WordPress. So you can check her out or him out. I'm assuming it's female because of the obvious. Now, Mother, the goddess in the planet, embodied in the planet, always provides for us, her children, what we need for our health in the form of a plant or an event on the property that you send your love into. So I send my love into the earth. And so when the lightning struck that tree, and I had been wondering what to do about today's circumstance, today's situation of obvious, what's that word again? Opposition. I got what my answer is. So, what I did as a kid is that there used to be this candy that came on sheets of paper, and these little dots were on them, and it was basically colored sugar, and you could peel off them as you needed. So I'm looking at this as a homeopathy, and I've been eating it every day, and I had like troubles in my C1 through 3. Like my C1 through 3 were really hurting so much. I had to learn how to do exercises to protect my neck because I was in pain, like bad pain. So bad that I understand wanting to die if you're old and in pain all the time. And death is not to be feared. And that's what I don't understand. It's like, why are people so afraid of dying? It's like, we're all going to do it. Anyway, we are right now in opposition. We're in opposition with others.